of you who've heard me talk before, I'll try to say different things. Oh, hang on, it's asking me to continue. Yeah, no, that's fine. So yeah, the CPPC, as you all know, is this really nefarious network of over 56 groups now. So we've got 56 members across Cornwall, community conservation groups, marine conservation groups. We've got the big players like Surfers Against Sewage, Cornwall Wildlife Trust, but we've got all the small groups as well. So acting as a network has been absolutely brilliant because it's given us the power to do lobbying and awareness raising with 56 logos on the bottom of an email or on the bottom of a letter or a report. So we've used that collective voice and collaborative voice to do citizen science. We've published scientific reports in journals now. I think we're up to our 3rd report on balloon debris, biobeads, plastic agglomerates. We're currently working on ghost gear. And as well as that, we do education work. Our volunteers go into schools across Cornwall, sometimes into Devon for free. And we've even been, you know, as far as Hampshire, we've been asked to go to do education work, Key Stage 1, Key Stage 2, even Key Stage 3 and 4. And that's all entirely voluntary. We have a small pot of funding through Cornwall Wildlife Trust and Suez and Clean Cornwall that just pays volunteers travel expenses. So the volunteers contribute their time for free and do absolutely wonderful work in the schools. And it's a really powerful thing. It's really hard to keep the network together because all of the groups do their own thing in their own ways, and quite rightly so. And then the combined voice, we do have terms of reference for any of you who aren't members of the coalition or would like to be, then I can send you the terms of reference. And if your group wants to join, then it's as simple as just agreeing the terms of reference. And it'll give you a bit more an idea on what we do. And we only meet twice a year. It's not loads of meetings. It's all done, I don't know, virtually, all the coordination work. So it's really easy. And I think the lockdown has given everybody, and by everybody I mean those of us who are already engaged in conservation and environmental work, as well as those who've never given it a moment's thought, I think it's given everybody time to reflect on what's important in our lives, what we need, what we want, what we don't need, you know, what we can live without and what we absolutely can't live without. And I've had conversations with local families who, some of whom have struggled all being together under one roof, but some have absolutely relished the time to just spend together playing board games or going out on cycle rides together because they didn't have the time to do that. And they never even thought about doing that until they had to do that. And I know families locally who are really enjoying that. And hopefully, you know, that will continue. They've realized a slightly different way of being. So I think it's been really important for relationships and connections. And it's also been really sad because we haven't been able to you know, meet up with our friends, and we've had to rely on screens and telephones, which I do find quite difficult. I'm a very huggy person, as is Jen, as is John and Jill, and it's really alien not to be able to go up and physically touch and hug people, but it's something we're going to have to live with. And I think it's given, as we've all seen, the environment and nature and wildlife time to breathe, and I properly breathe. The air is cleaner, there are less planes, there are less cars. You know, that scientifically there's evidence of improved air quality, less noise, the wildlife. I don't know whether you're the video of because I come from the northwest and North Wales, and there's wonderful footage of the wild goats on the Orme at Llandudno just taking over the town. And it's wonderful wildlife. You know, we've got hedgehogs in the garden here. I haven't seen hedgehogs in our garden for a number of years. So that's been so brilliant. I know that we've all got that real urge to keep it like that. And we want to keep that freshness, that greenness, because our wildlife's begun to reclaim the environment, which was great until last weekend, when I can't, the madness and the craziness that happened last weekend across Cornwall and across the United Kingdom was horrendous. And even here in Pendeen, really tiny little community with one road down to the lighthouse and a tiny little car park and then 2 beautiful coves, we couldn't get, the car parks were backed up almost towards the village. The amount of traffic on the road, the amount of people out and about on the beaches. And I'm going to share with you just some of the photos from some of the groups. Bear with me, and I hope this screen share is going to work. And you probably have seen most of these pictures before. This is Bude. Bude Cleaner Seas project were horrified at the mass gatherings that happened on the beach. So not only did people leave litter, they actually broke all the social distancing guidelines, and a dispersal order had to be put in place. But the rubbish and the debris that was left, that was, the volunteers have done their best, and that's actually all being cleaned now. We had similar situation here in the west at Porthcurno. The car park was closed, and we had overnight campers down there. We had barbecues. We had waste just dumped around, as you can see, around the bins as well as on the beaches. And one of the things that all the groups are reporting is the amount of, this is Tregantle at the top, is the amount of human waste, toilet waste, sanitary items, as well as your expected, food packaging, barbecues and bottles. And I think the press did give us a huge amount of coverage over the weekend. Spotlight covered it. We were on radio. This is plastic-free Penzance. So Mounts Bay suffered badly all along Longrock down to Marazion, as well as Penzance. And it was just the volume that somehow people seemed to just lose over the course of those few days all sense of what we'd achieved during the lockdown, the freshness, the cleanness, and just went out and trashed it. And it's really difficult. This is Hale. So all around the estuary at Gwithian and Hale, again, just piled up in the dunes as well as by the bins. I think people found it most difficult to look at a bin like that and think, well, why didn't they just take the rubbish home with them? It's mindless. Newquay, loads of barbecues, bottles, food waste, as well as, I say, sanitary items. That was Fistral. That was just one of the bins at Fistral, but again, the beach. So, this is our own beach at Portherys Cove, which is 20 minutes walk from anywhere. We have no bins at Portherys Cove. You have to take your rubbish, but people were leaving not just rubbish, but wet wipes, toilet paper. And it's been really difficult. PPE, we're finding gloves, the occasional masks, but not so many. It's usually gloves and the wet wipes that we're finding at Portherys. So these are new challenges. We're sort of used to picking up litter, but picking up the human sanitary items because the toilets are closed. And we were talking about this at an online meeting yesterday. People are just thinking that they can just go anywhere because the public toilets are closed. And this is going to have really severe health impacts if we don't get a grip on this quite soon. And one of the things that came up during the discussion yesterday is why the public toilets are closed. And I know that John Page is on the parish council where he lives. And he was saying that the guidelines are actually asking people who are responsible for public toilets to actually clean the cubicles in between each person, which is patently not going to happen if you're a small parish council and you can't afford to employ an attendant. So I think that's why at the moment, even the National Trust toilets locally are closed. We've got a really interesting situation. How are we going to move forward from that? So these are are new challenges that I think perhaps we've encountered on a small scale, but we're encountering on a much bigger scale. It's going to be really difficult as a group or a network to give the right guidelines to our volunteers. We can't ask our volunteers to go picking up human waste and toilet paper, and I wouldn't dare to ask the Friends of Portherys Cove to do that. Some of us individually will make a decision that that's what we're going to do, but I don't think it's a reasonable thing to ask volunteers to do that. We're not going to be able to organise proper organised beach cleans until they relax the guidance a little bit, and when we do, we're going to have challenges in terms of washing the gear, the litter pickers. You know, do we use disposable gloves? Do we all have to have masks on, and then are we issuing them or asking people to bring their own? So there's lots and lots of questions that over these next months we are going to have to try and support our volunteers and our groups to come to terms with that, and it changes, it's changing daily. The single-use plastics that we've all been, you know, banging on about for years, you know, use a reusable cup, you know, cut down on avoidable plastics, and we are now thrown back into the situation where cafes will not be accepting reusable cups. They're already beginning to say, because of the cross-contamination, where it involves an attendant doing that, they're not going to be doing that. So we're back to a situation where we're going to have single-use food items again, and that, I know, is going to be I find that really difficult, and I know everybody else in, you know, in our field is going to find that difficult, but it's something we're going to have to live with. But that doesn't mean we can't think about different ways to help the planet and to look about, you know, looking in terms of other plastics and pollution that's out there. I'm going to show you a video in a minute, so I'm just going to have a sip of water and hope that the video shares okay. One thing I think we really need to think about, Jen, in terms of Cornwall Wildlife Trust and Clean Cornwall, Kenza, is the risk assessments. Because the current risk assessments really will have to be totally revised as all of the guidelines continue to change. So I think that's something perhaps that we need to have a separate talk and think about those liabilities. And I know Surfers Against Sewage have, you know, their own sets of risk assessments, but it's something that we will all need to do, and we really need that collaboration, I think, together. First aid arrangements. You know, at the minute you're allowed to go out and meet 5 other people. So in theory, you could organise, you know, a distanced beach clean. But then, you know, what about if there was an incident? What about if there was a first aid call? Have we got the same PPE and guidelines that the lifeguards are working to? So huge amount of thinking about that needs to be done. However, I'm going to show you a video because I want to start thinking about other plastics apart from single-use plastics, because there's so much we can do to get people to think about the other pollution that's out there. So if I am able to just, I'm just going to turn the speakers on and hope that the speakers work while I share a video. And if it doesn't share the sound straight away, I will stop it and start again, because I do need the speaker sound on this one.
So, welcome to
Jen, can you hear that?
Coalition.
Too quiet, isn't it? Yeah?
A little bit too quiet, yeah.
Now hang on a second, because my speakers have disconnected. Sometimes the Bluetooth drops out, so I'm just going to turn that off and on again.
No worries. It's such an interesting point that you raised, Delia, about the sort of, I think we discussed it yesterday, didn't we, about running events and that whole, it's all well and good if an event's going perfectly well, then it's easy, but if something does go wrong,
yeah,
how are you supposed to deal with that?
Okay, that's got my speakers working back. Okay, so
Can't hear it, Delia.
On here.
Yeah.
Actually prepared some
Oh,
new
perfect.
Yeah.
environmental meals. And if you press additional breakfast.
It's gone very quiet again.
Pasta with spinach and fried tomatoes, sounds delicious. And lastly, fish chips, mushy peas for the tradition.
Got it?
Yeah, it's good.
We do also have a flotsam flurry drink available, and as you can see, all of our ingredients have been locally sourced and lovingly prepared for you. So let's see what our first choice may be. And I think we should go for a traditional breakfast. As you can see, maybe not quite the traditional breakfast that you might have been expecting. So we have sausages, gunshot cartridges, cigarette lighter. We have some vintage Smartie lids for our baked beans, rubber and nylon balloon cord for the bacon, and a rather spectacular fried egg, which is a polystyrene ball, and a little bit of carrier bag, all of which were found during beach cleans in Cornwall. The ingredients that you see on the plate have been found on our beaches. Plastic pollution on a plate. Let's try another course. We'll go for, how about fish chips and mushy peas? Delicious. So we have a variety of discarded, lost, abandoned, broken fishing lures. Mushy peas, absolutely delicious with some trawl netting and some of those little beads that actually go on the netting. Little green, sometimes you get yellow ones, the little beads, and the chips. Now the chips are rather interesting. These are bits of expanded foam, and it's the foam that we find the long line fishing lures. So again, fishing gear that we find on our beaches, all from Cornish beaches during beach cleans. And as you can see, makes rather a tasty looking dish. Maybe not for humans though. Next, I think we'll try let's go for the pizza option. So we have a really tasty looking ham and cheese and tomato pizza with a little bit of ham being bits of balloon debris, rather lovely pink balloon. We've got some onions, bits of milk bottle. We've got some lovely expanded foam again here that we find on our beaches, and the olives are little wheels from toy cars. Green salad, we've got bits of balloon, the ever-present poppy stems from beach cleans, bits of artificial flowers that we find, and even bits of toys. The sad thing is that we humans, given a plate of plastic, would say, well, no, really, it's not the sort of thing I would like to eat. But all of this plastic pollution is in our oceans, it's in our seas, and unfortunately our marine creatures might not have the choice of eating it or not eating it. Let's go for the pasta, so the vegan pasta. Cherry tomatoes, Coca-Cola lids. We've got lots of different bits of fishing line and nylon cord. And the interesting little spinach leaves, actually we find quite a lot of these on beach cleans, sometimes red ones as well. We have a feeling these are from container spills, but quite an interesting find. Ever-present Coca-Cola lids, one of the really common finds. Different brands that we find on beach cleans, some crop up more than others. Now, what's our final choice on the menu? Our final choice is sushi. And again, really interesting ingredients in our sushi. We have loads of the infamous Lego lost at sea. This is Lego seaweed from the 1997 container spill, Tokyo Express. The sushi itself, we've got some nurdles and bio beads over here, wrapped in beautiful green carrier bags that we found. I think it's a Marks and Spencer carrier bag. Some fishing line, bit of orange balloon debris, and these, you'll probably be aware, find on very many beach cleans, biomedia filters. Come in lots of different shapes and sizes and colours, but they're part of the wastewater treatment. Not the sort of thing you would really want to consume in any way, shape or form. And the carrots are fishing, a fishing buoy, a rather bendy fishing buoy that we were able to cut up, and an elastic band. Again, all of the ingredients on these plates have been found on our beach cleans. And the really sad thing is that our marine creatures are eating this plastic by mistake. We can walk away and say, no, I'd rather not consume a plate of plastic. But the dolphins, the seals, the basking sharks, the fish, even the plankton are now beginning to consume the microplastics. So this plastic is in the food chain. And if these plastics are being eaten by the top chain predators and by fish, we are eating, or some humans are eating the fish. So actually it's in our food chain as well. A sobering thought. I'll take the final dish away and present you with the drink, the flotsam flurry, polystyrene and sprinkles. And as you can see, lots of little interesting bits of, mini bits of plastics, fragmented plastics, bits of toy, and you even have the tiniest crab. And there you have it. Cornish Plastic Pollution Coalition's environmental meals. Enjoy, or rather, don't enjoy.
So hopefully that'll just give you an idea of actually all the other stuff that we pick up off the beaches and that we see on a regular basis. So we've got loads of opportunity to raise awareness about all this other stuff. People, I think, just get focused on cups and cutlery, plastic cutlery and single-use straws and carrier bags, whereas we know there is an ocean full of, you know, ghost gear. You know, any amount, every beach clean you go on, you will find bits of trawl netting or lobster pot hooks or the fisherman's kisses, the little knots of the trawl gear. Certain beaches accumulate the microplastics. So if you go to Dugantle or Marazion around the Red River, the sand is full of nurdles, biobeads and microplastics. It seems to certain beaches seem to be hotspots depending on the beach's topography, on how the sand, whether it's sand or shingle. It's really, you know, it's a really interesting fact. Portharis, on certain days on Portharis, yesterday was one of them, we get balloons blown in. We're a northwesterly facing beach, so we get islands rubbish when it's an onshore breeze, and I can guarantee you with an onshore northwesterly we get balloons blown in. Certain beaches are hotspots for the plastic glomerates I spoke about, so rocks that aren't rocks, incinerated plastic that has been floating around and been rounded and by the wind and the waves and weathered, so it looks like pebbles. And I think a lot of people don't realise about this other stuff. So we've got these are the insides of fireworks. Again, a really common find. You know, fireworks don't have to have plastic. We should be hammering on to these different industries, the fishing industry, you know, the entertainment industry that make these things. We don't need plastic in them. So I think there's lots of opportunities. Another item, cable ties. You know, the building industry, cable ties, scaffolding ends, poles, all those little security tags. Again, really common find on beach clean. So I think we've got real opportunity now, because we can't bang on against the single-use plastics, to start looking at all the other types of plastic that we can be avoided, that can be changed, that can be altered. So I think that is quite exciting. I'm quite looking forward to exploring, you know, which we can focus on. The coalition at the moment has got a big campaign against the fishermen's kisses. We've done a competition recently, and we'll be issuing another video about that. So that's one of our themes at the minute. But I think if we try and focus on lifestyle changes and consumerism, I think that's an interesting angle to go down. The lockdown has given us a real chance to look at what we need and what we don't need, what we buy and what we don't buy, our shopping habits. Hopefully most of us will have done more local shopping than we used to do. And I think if we can go on those angles, that has a knock-on effect. The less people buy and the less people order and the less shipping there is, the less containers that are on the ocean, and it will all have an impact. So I think that's a really interesting opportunity. And I think the shift in emphasis needs to happen quite soon. I think we need to send those messages out quite quickly, because people will use single-use plastics more. And at the moment, there's nothing we can do about that. We're going to have to just let that one go for a while. I know, Jen, you talked about a new normal. I'm not convinced that phrase. I sat and thought about it when you asked me to do this talk. I wasn't convinced. I don't want to go back to the old normal, because that's what got us here in the first place. And I just, so I thought, I'm beginning to think more in terms of a renewed normal. We've renewed, in this period of lockdown, we've all renewed our connection with wildlife, with the environment, with each other, with food. We've all eaten differently, we've shopped differently. We've re-established connections with our own families if we've been in lockdown with them. And we've renewed connections with other people. I've phoned people I haven't phoned for 12 months during lockdown, and it's been really good. So I think I'm of a mindset to look at it as a renewed, re-energized normal, and to go with that, as opposed to trying to dream up an entirely, let's go back to nature and to caring for each other and to talking to each other and communicating with each other. And I think Cornwall Wildlife Trust, the coalition, all of the individual groups, we're ideally placed to do that. You know, we've got that network of interaction and communication, and we support each other anyway. So, you know, we're the ideal vehicle to start getting that message out there. But one thing, before I finish, I did want to touch on, finally, somebody said to me, we're all in this together. And yes, we are all in this together. And then somebody else said to me, we're all in the same boat. And we're not all in the same boat. Some people have got massive luxury yachts, and you know, their boats are fine, they're huge, they're massive, they've got outdoor space, they've got loads of food, loads of money, and no money worries. Some people's boats are literally a cobbled together life raft that's really wobbly, that might even be starting to sink, that they don't feel safe in. And I think we need to be really mindful that the volunteers in our own groups and our own networks, they've been through very different things. And some of them might not be comfortable going back to how it was. And the demands of being a volunteer in a group may be entirely different now for that person. Some of us will be, you know, we'll just go out and we'll litter pick waste and crap and everything else that's out there. Some people will not be comfortable doing that for any amount of reasons. And the other thing is, people that we know really well will have changed, and they might not be comfortable to talk about some of the things and some of the fears initially. People's emotional and physical well-being, financial well-being has changed drastically in a really quite short space of time. yeah, and people we think we know really well might not be as comfortable talking to us about stuff, and I think we all need to be aware of that and support each other as best we can, and pick our way, you know, through this. And that's just something I wanted to mention, because I know in Pendine we've got a massive volunteer base that helps run the community centre, the Friends of Portharis Cove, various other projects. But I'm really conscious that I can't place the demands that we used to place on them when we do start opening up. We need to be really careful of people's fragility in this time. So yeah, that's that. Yeah, renewed normal. Let's try and help each other, and let's look at it in a slightly different angle. But yeah, let's positively go forward. So thanks, Jen, for letting me rabbit on. I will stop now, and I will see if anybody's got any questions.
Thanks so much, Delia. That was
That's
brilliant.
all right.
I really like I think now you've said that, I actually really like that idea that you just said about not a new normal, but a renewed normal. I think that's that. It's really, I completely get what you're saying there, and you're right. And like you said, I think it's lovely that people have my dad has he started phoning his cousins. He hasn't spoken to his cousins in years. Like, and that whole, everyone's sort of, even me, I've been ringing my gran a lot more, like, which a bad granddaughter, I should do that anyway because she's 93, but I've been ringing her a lot more because I know she's completely isolated. And like you said, I think that's what we need to get back to. But also, like you said, with that people's capacity to care. And it's something I've always been quite conscious of with even before this whole lockdown thing, you know, being environmental sometimes can be quite costly. And actually there's some people that it's like, you know, I might buy my Nature's Anchor shampoo bar that's £8 a pop, but it's fantastic, you know, but a family can't afford to pay £8 for a bar of shampoo. If they've got young children, they'll go through that in a day. So yeah, I think you're totally right, and lockdown has completely changed things for everybody. And yeah, not, like you said, definitely not everybody is in the same boat. But yeah, thank you so much. So brilliant. Has anybody got any questions for Delia?
Or comments or
comments.
whatever.
Yeah, go for it. No one sent any messages. But if anyone would like to, you're welcome to unmute yourself. If you do have a question, anybody? No? That's fine. Oh, I think, did you want to unmute, Chris?
Can I just say something?
Of course you can.
I'm involved in Plastic Free Falmouth, and we had a Zoom meeting in the week. And in terms of beach cleans, what we've decided to do is just through our immediate Slack, our closed network, just set up a way that one person can say, I'm going to go today to Castle Beach or whatever, anyone else up for it, and just two people go. I've brought some of our litter picks and whatever to my house, and the notion would be people come and pick them up, and they have them and they keep them, and they're then responsible for cleaning them. So it's not all bells and whistles or large groups, but just supporting people to just do a small informal, a pair, socially distanced, and that's what we're going to try out. No idea whether it will work or whether anyone will take it up, but yeah.
I think that's fantastic.
I think that's the way that let people do what they're comfortable with, and giving them the equipment. If you can do that, that's brilliant, because it saves all that hassle. I know the 2-minute beach clean boards aren't out at the minute because they can't put them out because they can't disinfect them. It's like the toilet thing. So yeah, letting people have them within your group's a really good idea. Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah, really good. Yeah, I think because I spoke to Delia the other day as well about the whole, obviously in theory, event wise, we could start doing some smaller events now as the project. but actually it makes me feel massively uncomfortable, the idea. I think you're opening yourself up to a huge can of worms that I just, after being in lockdown for so long as well, I at the moment don't have the capacity to really think about properly. So yeah, I think, like you said, just, you know, you can step out with a friend or associate, can't you, and socially distance, doing a small beach clean, and it's still making a difference, isn't it? It's still doing something, and starts to get that interaction going between you and people in the outside world again. Anyone else got any other comments or questions for Delia?
Hi, Jen.
Hi, Jen, you're right.
Yeah, I was just going to say earlier in the week around Newquay, we just had some appalling sights of litter, rubbish all stacked up next to the bins like you were showing earlier on. And Liz from Newquay Beach Care sort of rallied quite a few of us. We had a couple of people at each site around town all sent to do a little clean up. And actually, because we'd made such a noise about it on social media, when we got there, the council trucks were coming around and cleaning everything up. So it could have just been coincidence that that happened to be the day of that week that they were coming round, but it could have also been just making a bit of noise about it, sort of sprung them into action. So it does actually pay to kind of hassle and harass a little bit. I know they're probably quite stretched at the moment with what they can do, but I think it is worth just noising them up a little bit.
And I think they are stretched. The meeting that we had yesterday with Clean Cornwall and Cornwall Council, we're intending to put out a joint press release, because what we hadn't been able to do because of lockdown is publish the data that we'd collected from last year. So all the groups in the coalition, or the ones that keep records of what they pick up, we had produced quite a big report to show the total volunteer hours and the total stuff that had been cleaned from the beaches by the volunteers. And that press release had just got lost. So we're going to issue that press release hopefully Monday. So there should, and it will be thanking the volunteers and the groups, and actually pointing out the financial contribution that we're all making to Cornwall, and the in-kind contribution, the in-kind work that's being done is massive. So fingers crossed that'll go out on Monday. So I know they were hoping to get along to Newquay with some of you to do a bit of a press call for that as well. So they should be in touch with Newquay Beach Care.
Oh, lovely. But the whole toilet issue really concerns me as well, and I do understand the issues with it, but surely human waste everywhere is much more serious a health issue than the toilets where there's access to soap and water.
Yeah, that's exactly the point that we were making yesterday. It's my degree's in biological sciences, and I'm more worried about the human excrement and the toilet waste. And I mean, I can't begin. I didn't show you pictures, deliberately didn't show you pictures of what we found at Portharis Cove, because it's just absolutely gross. And yes, it's far more of a biohazard at the moment, I think, than COVID is down here. But as John was saying at the meeting yesterday, until they change the guidelines for opening the public toilets, and John, I don't know whether you've got any comments on that.
Yeah, I was just going to sort of come in when you finished. Some of you know I'm parish councillor, but I'm also responsible for the toilets at Par Beach. We have got an issue down there. People are using the dunes and the surrounding areas, but even where there are no toilets, the nature reserve that I'm chairman of, Francis and Andrews Wetland Reserve, I have discovered human waste in the reserve. Now, there's no toilets there anyway. We've never had that issue before, and I just do not, for the life of me, understand why some people think that all of a sudden you can do what you like anywhere. And it's just, I just can't figure it out. I don't understand the psychology behind it. But going back to the loos, people keep on saying to me, well, why haven't you got the beach toilets open at Par Beach? Because others are open. Well, I can't answer that. I do say to them, well, give me the evidence they're open, because all I'm hearing is people are saying they're open. I've not seen that there are some open. The guidelines are the same to every public toilet. So I don't know what others are doing if they are open. perhaps they're relying on people to sanitize the place after or before they go in. I wouldn't want to sanitize a toilet before I went into it. I'd be quite happy to do it after I've been, but not before. You can't rely on the public to do these things. So, you know, it's not a safe way. And at the end of the day, the parish council's duty is to make places safe for the public. And we cannot do that. And that is the difficulty. My own personal view is that, like everybody else, and it's unfortunate for those with medical conditions, is that if you are thinking about going out, you've got to think about how far you go from home. Can you get to a toilet if you need one? You know, friend, whatever. You've got to be mindful and you've got to take responsibility for your own actions. The fact that the government have turned around and said, oh, you can go anywhere you like as long as you like. You've got to think about yourself. You know, it's well, yeah, I mean, what more can I say? It's down to people at the end of the day. But, yeah, end.
I think it is. I think Jenny as well, and I know Lizzie Labaster, her poor dog Goose the other day ate some human excrement and was very, very poorly. And I think it's things like, not only for human, it's just, it's hard to know what the best action is, but I totally agree with you, John. Actually, people just need to be a bit more responsible and think, you know, if I'm going to need to go, then perhaps don't stray too far from home. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah. And Jocelyn messaged to say that apparently in Delabole, is it Delabole? They have been open throughout. Message from Scott Mann. Scott has spoken to the leadership board at Cornwall Council with regard to getting the public toilets open. The majority are operated by the town, parish and parish councils. Cornwall councils have contacted them with guidance and support to assist them with reopening the facilities in line with current health guidelines. The toilets that Cornwall Council have responsibility for are to be opened imminently once they've been able to complete their Legionnaire testing that is required regularly.
Yes, it's cleaning and Legionnaires are the two big things, but then there's the third condition, which is the sanitising between users.
Yeah.
That's the sticking.
And Scott has also discussed this issue on the conference call with Tourism Minister, and the department is working to facilitate the opening of toilets as soon as possible. So yeah. Has anybody else got any comments or questions or anything?
Just a quick comment from me. Anyone that is doing a litter pick, unfortunately Clean Cornwall can't organise waste collection at the moment. And we're getting a lot of different individuals or groups asking, and we're just having to say to be sort of mindful of collecting waste when doing the litter picks, and maybe don't pick loads and loads of bags because it might be left by a bin and then just ripped open again. So unofficially we can say try and put it in the public bin. Obviously officially we shouldn't say that. But just to be mindful when you do go out, don't collect 10-15 bags and then get left with it, because the recycling centres aren't open up to normal waste yet either, are they? So it's a complicated process.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kenza.
Yeah, thank you. Cool. Anyone else got any other questions or anything? Your dog is adorable, John.
Don't tell him that. He just wants to join in conversations.
Can I just say, we went to our dump yesterday. The dumps are open now, so that actually, if you did get a few bags, then someone could bung them in their car and just go to the dump. There aren't big queues everywhere. Again,
is it just open for garden waste at the moment?
No.
Is open back up to normal?
Yeah, that's in Falmouth. I mean,
okay.
My understanding is they're all open, even for trailers now as well. We took our trailer at last.
That will make it a lot easier, yeah.
I believe
it is my understanding. It is just garden waste and household waste. You know what you put in your black bag to be collected. They're not doing recycling stuff at the moment.
Right.
That's my understanding.
That might help with the litter pick, though. I guess if that goes in what could be your household waste.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you live near one or something, but that's not official. We can say that either. Shouldn't encourage that, but if it's
I believe that the one in Newquay is that it's your number plate, whether it's odd or even, depending on which day of the week you can go. I don't know if it's the same in Falmouth.
Yeah.
I think they've opened it up a bit more now, Jen, because it wasn't quite as horrendously busy as they had anticipated. So I think they've opened it up a bit more now, and you can go anytime.
Cool.
You'll have a look on the council website. All the information's on there for each of the recycling centres around Cornwall.
Thank you, Adele. Cool. And just as just said, large items are allowed. You have to go on certain days. Look at the Cornwall Council guidelines. Fab. Cool. Has anyone else got anything else they'd like to ask or share? Fab. Well, thank you so much, Delia. That was fantastic. I know some people are muted, but I'm going to give you a round of applause.
Very good.
Woo!
Thank you.
Thank you for kicking
Thanks,
off
Delia.
Thought Fridays on this beautiful, sunny World Environment Day. And lovely to see you guys. And you take care, and I'll speak to you soon.
Bye all.
Bye.